You know, when not to place a trade is something I talk about when I discuss my indicators initially when I was teaching you how to set them up. If you haven't done that, there are videos down below in the description you can use to set up your indicators. And I also try to talk about it when I'm evaluating trades, especially if they're not in a buy zone. And what I want to do now, this video is just about when not to buy. And I'm going to base it on my indicators so you get an idea of what I look at and why I don't buy them. And I pulled up Microsoft here. You know, it was very choppy through here, trading in a range. Uh, but you can still, even though this was trading in a tight range, you can still see areas where you shouldn't buy. It can be more obvious when not to buy when it's starting to extend like this. So that's one reason I wanted to look at this chart, is because you still get these indicators even when it's in a range area. And you know, you look through this area from here to here just as an example. I'm going to pull up a different indicator here. From here to here, and this is a range bound zone. You could draw some trend lines, a little channel there. And you could argue, you know, I would say it's an uptrend just based on the overall eye test. But one thing I do know is this. If I want to sell Microsoft short, for instance, you know, I can't sell it short here in this area when it's at a 2 deviation move to the downside. You know, you can't go short here. The odds are just not in your favor. You know, if you're going to go short, you want to go short here, not down here. Again, odds not in your favor here. If you're looking to go long, you can't go long here. The odds are just not in your favor right here. You can go long here if you want to. You could even go long down here if you believe this trend line is going to hold. But you can't go long when it's extended up to this second deviation area, and you can't go short when it's moving down into this second deviation to the downside. And you see this all through this chart as it's hitting these second deviations. This is only a 1 deviation, but I wouldn't go short at this 1 deviation and when I'm looking for an uptrend. And up through here, you can't go long right here. It turns out that it came back to a 1 deviation here, and you could have potentially taken this long, but it's still more of a high risk trade. I would rather see it come back down to here. But this one I could kind of see because the second deviation's moved away from it. This isn't actually hitting the second deviation, but it's right up against it. And even, right now in more current price action, these are not points that you want to go long. If you look at your indicator here, you can just tell that these are not areas that are good for the long. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch to the other chart, my wave indicator, and I'm going to leave these circles on here so you can see how they kind of match up on both indicators. The wave indicator will give you some different readings, but again, I look at all the charts. I look at this one, then I'll look at my wave indicator to determine whether or not I should take a trade. So here is my wave indicator. Now my wave indicator, you can see where the no buy zones are from the Bollinger Band indicator that are still on here. So what I want to do is I want to draw the no buy zones on my wave indicator. I've got one here at the 2 ATR. I've got one here at this 2 ATR move. Got one real close here. I've got this one right through here. And then I've pretty much got all of this price action. All of this price action through here is a no buy because it's this 2 ATR channel. Now, this is some of the different readings that you get, because what we're seeing here is on the wave indicator, we're at a no buy zone right here, right in this area. Let's go back to the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band, we actually have a buy right here if we wanted to take it. Now, I would lean toward taking this trade. I would probably do it by buying the stock at a break above this line, and then I would have a real tight stop loss. In all probability, I might have taken partial profit here, but then I would have got stopped out. But you can see how the other chart gives you the no buy zones and the no sell zones, and how these rectangles go from chart to chart. So you can get an idea overall what's going on both charts if you want to draw this in, and so you can see what's going on. But you see how the charts work together to keep you out of bad trades. Let's take a look at another. This is a look at the ES. You see it's a pretty crowded chart. We've got a lot going on here. Got a couple of trend lines too. But let's start right here. Right here we're at a second, in fact a third deviation move to the downside. Let's go ahead and mark that on this chart. Second and third deviation move to the downside. I'm going to include that there. Here we've got moves up pushing the second deviation. Really, I have trouble seeing a buy anywhere on this up move. You could probably take a buy right here on this consolidation, but you got to be very careful because of how close these lines are. So if we look from this point forward, we had a no sell zone here. It's just too low to sell at this point. And we've got no buy zone here, a no buy zone here, and we've got price action, in here. Let's take a look at it on the wave chart and see what kind of readings we're getting. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Here we've got a no buy zone right through here, or sorry, a no sell zone. We've got a no buy zone really all through this level here, and that includes these candles right here are all in the no buy zone. They're over that 2 Keltner channel deviation, and then we've got a no buy zone here. Now, again, here we do have a pullback to the wave, so this could have been a buy here that's easier to see than it was on the Bollinger Bands. So right here you did have a buy opportunity right here on a pullback right to the top of the wave, and we saw that also on the Bollinger Band. And here was the Bollinger Band pullback going toward the main below that 1. So you had a buy here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the stack moving averages just to show you what's really going on when we look at these. You can't really tell buy or sell here other than you've got the 200 simple right here that it bounced off of. But what you can tell here that you can't tell on the other charts is how well it's following the 10 EMA. So anytime it touches this 10 EMA, you could make a strong argument was a buy signal, including right through this area. Now this area right here was identified as a buy area on all 3 charts. Now the EMAs do not tell you by themselves where a no buy area is. Other than, I do not like to see a very sharp move like this where you got extension between these EMAs. I don't like to see that. It's hard for me to just mark that as a no buy, but I don't like that. And I also don't like the steepness of this move up here. Those are warning signs. However, you can see where you're getting support on the 10 EMA, so you do have some buys there. The other thing that this tells me, if I'm looking at my stacked EMAs, it's very important on when not to buy, is right now I've got the 10, 20, 30, 50, 200 stacked. So this tells me that I'm more likely to see long price action, and that's what I'm looking for. If you look back here, when I may have had a buy opportunity here, but I didn't have stacked EMAs. Sometimes I will take those trades, but it's a lot higher probability trade if you have stacked EMAs like this. Right in here you have higher probability trades. When you're trying to go long, when the EMAs are crossing up, it's a lot more difficult. And the same is true to the downside, but the downside you'd want to see 10, 20, 30, 50, 200. Sometimes I will somewhat ignore the 5200 cross. It just depends on current price action and why the price action's changed. But overall, I like to see this stacked EMAs. Like back here, you had the 10, 20, 30, 50, but it was below the 200. But there were some, pretty good buy areas right through here. And I'd have to look back through the other chart to identify that for sure. But if I'm just using the 10 EMA and watching how it's hugging it, it looks like there's an opportunity to buy here. You can probably ignore, actually this trend line was good then. I drew this on a later time frame. So this trend line was also showing support. Even though we were below the 200, but if the 200's up here, I would just expect some resistance. That's something you got to be careful with. Let's do the same type of analysis on bonds, TLT. We'll start back here. Pretty much all through this area, you have a no buy zone as we're pushing 2 and 3 standard deviations. So those are all no buy zones. You got a little better through here, so that was a no buy zone. You have no sell zone all through here. There's a no sell zone up into this area. This is a no buy zone on the Bollinger Band chart. You got no sell zone right here. You got no sell zones right here. Now let's take this over to the wave chart and take a look at it. Let's go ahead and do this. Really, this whole area from here all the way here on this chart is a no buy zone because it's over this 2 ATR channel. You've got a no sell zone here, a no buy zone here, You got no sell zone through here and a no sell zone through here. So that identifies areas where we don't want to go long or short on both charts, and you can kind of see the drawings how they go both back and forth between the charts. Let's go back, let's look at the moving average chart just to get an idea of what's going on with moving averages. You see how steep this is? You know, this is always a concern to me. Yes, we got consolidation, could have went long here, but if you notice, this EMA started to turn over here. Here, but we do have stacked EMAs, so we are looking for long entries. Here, things have gotten a little confusing. We got back to a stacked EMA here, but we're in no buy zones based on our other two charts. Over here, we got into a downtrend, still above the 200, but we have a nice downtrend with the 50 here, 30, 20, 10. So, and right now, I would say, and I think it's pretty obvious with bonds falling off today. In fact, I did a video about that this morning, so I'm not surprised to see that move down. But I think what we would have to say here is we're still in a downtrend and we're still looking for opportunities to go short. So we would go back to our Bollinger Bands, and our first short opportunity was here. We probably would have got stopped out. You know, if I had shorted here, I would have stopped out probably here. And then my next time to go short would have been either here or here. And we've got a good trade going on now. I would take partial profit here, or maybe a third of the trade off, and I'll be expecting it to come down further. We're not in we're at the mean, so we've got room down to the 1 and 2 ATR. We've got room down to this trend line. But you can still see how, as we look at the Bollinger Bands, how the no buy zones from the wave show up here after we drew them in. And this identifies, again, areas we do not want to go long and areas we do not want to go short. These in and of themselves are not trade entry points. They could be. You know, if you're looking for a reversion back to a trend, like here, for instance, you know, if you hit a no buy zone here on a down trend, then you could make the argument this is a perfect time. This is a perfect swing point, time to go short. Now you would not necessarily take the long here initially, because we're still trying to determine if this is the bottom pivot, because it wasn't a lower low. And if we're in a downtrend, I would expect a lower low. So I would not have tried to buy this at this point. You certainly could have shorted here. Getting down into here, this is not a sell zone because it's oversold according to our indicator, but this could have been seen as a buy area. You got this trend line, you got the lower low. You could argue that this right here was the sign of a counter trend move to the other side based on these oversold readings, and you could put your stop right in this area. So that is, when not to place a trade is something extremely important that I hope you learn from this video. And as you watch my other videos, you'll see me identify some of those areas. And again, when not to enter is every bit as important as when to enter. And you never have to be in a trade, and you never have to take this trade. There are thousands upon thousands of stocks out there for you to look at. So pick the best one with the highest probability for success. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Thanks.